Kayla and Jimmy, Memorial Cup fever here in Saginaw. And people hear about the OHL and the Memorial Cup and, of course, Saginaw Spirit. But what we don't always think about is what it took to get an event like this, not only here, but successful, making it successful. So I invited you guys on to talk a little bit about the Memorial Cup, but especially about the behind the scenes, and give us kind of a backstage view of what exactly this takes. But first, Kayla, how did you end up here? Give me a little bit of your background.
Oh man. Well, I went to school to work in sports.
Really?
My degree is in entertainment and sports promotion. Really random.
How convenient.
Yeah, worked out really well. I spent 5 years with the Detroit Pistons and worked customer retention and event planning.
Dang.
Right after the championship, though. So
Okay.
It was a great time,
Yeah.
but still a rough time for the team.
Did you grow up an athlete? Is that how you got into that? Or what?
Yeah. Basketball was something that really tied my dad and myself together. And the love of the bad boys was something I grew up with. So I remember going to a Detroit Pistons game, and we were in the very last row of the Palace of Auburn Hills, right against the wall. And I was in my glory. So that was something I wanted to move forward with in a career. It was either going to be color commentating on a radio station or working behind the scenes Fox Sports or,
Oh, wow.
working in basketball. And I got to do the basketball side.
I feel like color commentating is like the hardest thing.
Yeah, really glad I didn't go in that route. But
I have to talk her into
dreamer.
getting on the microphone anyway.
Oh,
Right,
yeah?
right.
Yeah, but you do such a great job on the microphone.
Thank
Where
you.
did you go to school for your degree?
Northern Michigan University,
Okay.
so up in Marquette.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to attend the university on a leadership scholarship. And anybody who has not been to Marquette, it's another fantastic city
Oh, my goodness.
in Michigan.
Absolutely.
Do it.
We were
Yes.
just there 3 weeks ago or so, 4
No
weeks ago.
way.
And I've spent time in the UP, but typically on the eastern side, you hit Tequamanon and you're like, okay, cool.
Right.
But we drove over to Marquette, and yeah, it's awesome.
It is such a cool city that's right on the shore of Lake Superior.
Yes.
It's kind of similar to the Great Lakes Bay region. You have the beach, you have the outdoors, you got great urban life to go
Yeah,
downtown.
it's true.
Great art. And then you've got your necessities that are like uptown if you need them.
Yeah. So you ended up with the Pistons. What was that experience like?
It was amazing. It was a work hard, play hard mentality, very similar to what we see with the Saginaw Spirit. All hands on deck.
Yeah.
We got to work with some fantastic athletes as well as a fantastic fan base. I loved it. And, but, I met my husband a little later on, and it was a different direction I wanted to take, becoming a mom and starting a family.
Changes everything.
Yeah. And I don't mind the change. I actually, one of my instructors there, or directors, that was one of the mantras he would always say is change is the only constant in life.
Yeah.
Be willing to bend with it and move with it. So
True.
Was it hard? Hey, I'll speak from my experience first, and then I'll ask you. So we had our 5-year-old Evelyn, and then we had 2 twin daughters as well. And that was really, when we had our twins, that was the line in the sand. Like, hey, Phil, I don't think you understood the first time around. Your life is completely different. Like, you can't work your 15-hour days. You can't burn your candle at both ends. Like, everybody's going to lose if you do it that way. And I'm going to be transparent. It was a little bit of a hard transition because I want to just squeeze on to like, no, I can do it all. I can do everything. I can be 100% for everybody all the time. And then you find out really hard that you can't do that. Was it a hard transition for you, or were you like, heck yeah, life is different. Let's do this.
Different.
Yeah.
Different is key, and hard is key. Like I said, we fell in love hard and fast, and we had my son, and 18 months later had my daughter. So very close in age, and putting myself on the back seat was different. I wanted to do it, but also realizing you couldn't do everything at once was really challenging. Kind of that growing up you still have to do in adulthood, right?
Yeah, that's such a great description of it. Like growing your family forces you to grow up, and you don't realize that you haven't fully made it there until you're like, oh, I have 3 lives I have to take care of.
Yeah. I think the best part is, though, is having that innocence that looks up to you, and they're so excited to see you every single day. There's not one other person that's excited to see you every single day like they are.
That's true.
So I think that helped that transition for me. Yeah. And then my focus became professionally, what can I do to support them better? And then that's the path that kind of led me into public schooling. And I worked in human resources and curriculum for 7 years after the Pistons. Yep. No experience, but I had a wonderful school district that was willing to kind of take me on and told me it wasn't necessarily about experience, it's about the person, and gave me that opportunity. And man, kudos to the public school systems, especially here in Saginaw County.
How cool having that perspective too, because sometimes organizations get kind of mired down in the do you meet every bullet point? Do you have all these things? But skills can be taught, character can't. And so, kudos to them for recognizing that. So how did you end up from curriculum to the Spirit?
Okay, so I spent 7 years in the public school system and just realized personally I wasn't happy. I loved the job, loved the community, but there was something internally that I needed more.
Yeah.
And again, sports. So I was like, where else can I do sports around here? And that led me to Saginaw Valley. I loved working at the university when I was there. I was somebody that had to put myself through school. So that was part of the time I spent at NMU was working directly in the recreation program. But sports weren't available at Saginaw Valley, but a wonderful job by the title of Special Projects Coordinator was. And gave me a wonderful opportunity to kind of still work in education, but work around students and work around that university lifestyle, which I loved. Shortly after, though, the pandemic came in and special projects took on an entire different definition. I was led by a wonderful team of people at the universities where we helped with crisis COVID, right? So we did vaccination clinics not only for that university community, but for the city, for the county. We spent time in the shelters and the soup kitchen, reaching out to those individuals that might not have the means of getting the vaccination or the education on the vaccination and getting them to where they needed to be to allow to make that choice if that's what they wanted. And then COVID prevention. But during that time frame, I also spent time working with the Great Lakes Bay Economic Club, and that's where I met Craig Goslin. And the rest is history.
Do you remember the first conversation you and Craig had about you helping out with the Memorial Cup?
Yeah, actually, I was on site at a conference, and he had reached out by email and said, hey, I have this cool project. Do you know of anybody that'd be interested? Right? So the more I read about it, the more I got excited.
Yeah.
So I reached back out and I said, well, I think I have somebody in mind, but can you tell me more about it? And being completely transparent, it was announced that March. This is May. Yeah. I didn't know about the event. I didn't know a lot about junior hockey. But again, it was somebody who saw me, gave me a chance and an opportunity and kind of let me explore that. And it's, what a ride. It's been amazing.
It's one of the things that Craig Goslin does so well is the faith and trust in people. Like he looks at you and says, hey, I think you could really help us. You don't need a resume. You don't have to wine and dine him. You don't have to swoon him for years. Or he's just like, hey, so I've got this idea.
Right.
And then you're off and running. Like you're immediately on the same page. Love Craig.
And the ideas are always grand.
Yes.
And I think without a grand idea, that possibility is not there. Once we start talking about this, anybody who's watching, listening is going to think this is just amazing. And it started from an idea.
True.
Yeah. AKA the memorial ceremony, Memorial Cup ceremony, the parade and stuff. Craig and I were talking about it this morning. It's just like, and then there's jets.
You bet.
Typical Craig.
Yeah, typical Craig. Jimmy Green.
Hi.
Hi.
Excuse my cough today.
Jimmy Green, how'd you get to the Saginaw Spirit?
Oh, Lord. What a long and winding road.
I'll let you take that whatever direction you want.
It's funny because I've been a season ticket holder for 13 years.
Oh, really?
My daughters literally grew up with the Saginaw Spirit, and I'm proud to say that they all work for the Saginaw Spirit now as well too. So
Very cool.
That's been that. It wasn't nearly as treacherous of a road or as weird of a road as one might suspect. Dick Garber and I are like brothers. So and Craig and I have been great friends for years. So for me, it was a little off my beaten path. I understood why they picked me. My problem was why I picked them. Because I had my plans already in motion.
You did?
I did. I was at ABC for 15 years, and my last year there, which I gave ABC a heads up on, I said, look, I got to do my own thing. I'm much broader than the ABC world, which was really in construction. And I had a lot of leadership things I wanted to do, a lot of community things, and I felt a little hamstrung by the ABC world. And I was, quite frankly, a little tired of the political scene, which, as you've seen, has decayed even worse. So my timing was perfect for leaving ABC. And then when Dick and Craig talked to me about the Memorial Cup, I did know about it. And so they suggested that they needed people with a name in the region that they could use to submit this bid. Well, of course, I said yes. I have to admit, I said yes, not understanding what that meant.
It's a big yes, Jimmy.
Yes, I know. It was weird. So, and like Kayla said, that was almost 6 months before they even won the Memorial Cup. So I was in this package that Go Great had put together, and Craig and Dick and these guys had put together. My name and picture are in there. They wanted a biography. All that stuff is in there. I forgot about it. Why? I'm building my own business. I'm leaving ABC. You know, I've got a whole nother journey to go.
Yeah, you had your head down. You're like, I got to get Jimmy Green Consulting. That's the name? Yeah, because
Jimmy Green Associates.
Yeah, and because I remember you following you had left ABC and you had announced you were starting
had
your
my own white
thing.
hat, my own logo.
And I'm like, yeah, Jimmy, go for it
Ready
and
to
do
roll,
it. And then
man.
all of a sudden I see, oh, he's joining the Saginaw Spirit. Like, what is happening?
I'll tell you what's funny about that is when Craig and Dick called me up, they were telling me we won the Memorial Cup. And I'm like, yes. But I said yes as a fan. I got to be transparent. I forgot. Seriously, like I literally forgot that I had signed on to something. And it wasn't until, and I was at the unveiling and the whole works. And then a couple weeks later, Craig reached out and said, hey, let's have lunch. I want to talk to you about your role.
What role?
Yeah, you're thinking like you're going to give me a foam finger.
I was like Scooby-Doo. I was like, what role? What role? And so we sat and we talked, and it was weird because I just fell in love with the possibility of it. However, when I looked at this major role initially, I'm like, oh, no. I mean, this was dotting I's and crossing T's and putting butts in hotels and all this kind of stuff because it was the surface stuff. And he said, no, we have somebody for that already. I'm like, okay, all right, that's great. And I didn't know Kayla. He mentioned her name, and at the time she was Pionk to me.
Yeah.
Not Pionk, which I got, because I'm looking at the thing. I'm like, who's this Kayla Pionk person? And he said, no, she's perfect. And so when I said yes, and even then with a little trepidation because I didn't know Kayla.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, you're only going to be as good. I was only going to be as good as that next person.
That's
because what a lot of people don't know is that Kayla and I are really the only employees of the Memorial Cup.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Saginaw, all that surrounding talent we have around us are Saginaw Spirit people. We are Memorial Cup. And so she depends on me and I depend on her. That's all we got.
Yeah, and the rest of the Saginaw Spirit staff.
Amazing people.
They're, of course, like, well, we have the Memorial Cup, but we also have a regular season
Right.
to run.
Playoffs now. Yeah,
We
all
can't
that
just
kind of
go
stuff.
like all hands off, all hands on
Right.
deck. They have to, of course, run a hockey team.
And if you go to a game, they do everything.
They do. Yeah.
And they're so good. They're so good. I mean, you walk in. When I went to my first Saginaw Spirit game when I first started the Riverfront work, and you walk in there, and it is such a top tier experience. It's
Experience, that's the word.
You walk in there and it feels good. The vibe is electric. Kids are having fun. It's professional in every way. They do such a killer job.
Well, for me, after I met Kayla, we sat down. I'm not kidding. This is not a commercial. I think we sat down for 10 minutes and just fell in love with our partnership.
Yep.
Like we were so in sync. It was amazing. And that has not changed. It's only strengthened. I keep telling everybody that when they say, so what are you going to get out of the Memorial Cup? And I said, a sister. You know, I mean, it's the best thing. No, I'm serious. It's the best thing for me.
It is.
We just have this incredible link with each other that will transcend and go way beyond the Memorial Cup.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's cool.
Very
It's
cool.
crazy how opportunities like this can bring people close, but
Mm-hmm.
individuals closer too in those relationships. And Jimmy has been such a fantastic mentor, a confidant, and
Well, I have to stay on her
them.
butt because
Yeah.
she's amazing. And, you know, and in full transparency, you know, some of the things I see her do are some of the things that cost me my marriage. You know, sometimes you can chase this thing so much and be so caught up in it.
Yep.
You know, you think your family will always be there. Well, not always. It's important to have that balance. So every now and then when I see her overextending herself, she gets this big brother text from me. Like I made her stop working last week at 9 o'clock.
9 p.m.
And I'm texting her too. I'm like, are you done? Are you done? She says, yeah, I'm just doing softball stuff now. I'm like, all right. So it's interesting to have, you know, to be older than Kayla and see her journey. And so sometimes you can see the detours and sometimes you can see these things and say, hey, hold on a minute. You know, long after the Memorial Cup is gone, that family needs to still be intact and strong and be there. So
I love two things about you saying that. One is what popped into my head was sometimes we talk about hindsight being 2020 and we throw that up in the air like, oh well, hindsight is 2020, we just kind of cast it to the wind.
Yeah.
But where it counts is when you can use that 2020 and help somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
And say,
Absolutely.
hey, you know, this happened to me. This is what I ran into. This is how I can help you. That's where you get that 2020 hindsight by saying, hey, maybe working until 12:30 every single night. There's going to be some negative effects. And then also what you said about keeping families intact and you guys having a relationship is like we win as a community because of the Memorial Cup. But if you as individuals lose along the way because you've sacrificed yourselves, your relationships, your professional lives on this altar of the Memorial Cup, that's not as big of a win as it could
it's a
be.
loss.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
No matter who wins it, it's a loss.
And it's hard because and again, it goes right back to that entire Saginaw Spirit staff. We want to be so good at what we do and we're so passionate about what we do. Sometimes we find ourselves subconsciously selecting that goal, right? And saying, well, everything else can sit to the side just for a moment. Well, now a moment has become 8 months, right?
Yeah, I've become kind of a surrogate dad in some respects. I mean, a lot of the staff will come to me and, you know, you can minimize things that they think are big things. You know, that's one of the things I love about having my life's experiences is that you really can, through your own life's travels, say, really trust me, this is not a big thing. Yeah. It'll pass. So it's just been an amazing experience. I said this weekend that I've worked in business for 45 years. This is, and I mean this sincerely, this is the toughest thing I've ever done, ever. I mean, because it's an all-day, everyday premise, it seems like, and the expectations are so huge.
And there's a deadline, like that Memorial Cup is happening.
Yeah.
Like you can't punt it for another year or like go a little bit slower for the next 4 and coast. Like it is happening March or May 24th, whether you want it or not.
Well, even as a lobbyist, you know, you only really work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday when they're in session. Monday, Friday, you get a chance to catch your breath. Here, we have a damn game. You know, it's like you can't even catch your breath because we got a game Friday and Saturday, and that's right, they play Sunday too, and now we got the playoff. So there's really no catching your breath, and you got that golden thing right at the end of this. So, but it's still going to be probably the most gratifying thing I've ever done too.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your individual roles. Kayla, what exactly do you do?
I am the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So what Jimmy didn't want to do, that was me. And I love it. Essentially, my job is taking that 5-inch binder that they created for the bid and making it a reality. And taking the best parts of our community and making sure that they're a part of it as well.
Oh, cool.
So it was building blocks from the ground up, right? We're building this large structure, and it has to start with the host organizing committee. And that was my first plan of duty in the role. And the host organizing committee started at 40 people. We're now at 62. But it's those movers and shakers and doers in the community that can help us execute each individual event that was all in that bid and outlined to make sure that we see that vision, but we really execute it in a style that's Saginaw and Saginaw spirit oriented.
And this is where Kayla doesn't give herself enough credit. She is leading leaders. When you look at that, and I look at that host committee, and they're all leading organizations. They're leading CPA firms, hotels, chambers. These are leaders. It's tough to wrangle those horses in a corral, but she does.
Goodness. Yeah. You seem like you have the I don't want to say the hardest job, but
Yes, she does.
Yeah,
I will.
Jimmy can say
I will, because I know.
Yeah, because it's one thing to have an idea and come up with the plan, but then to actually make that plan happen.
Yeah.
Like that to me is intense. Something that I couldn't do. I don't know the moving parts. I don't know what is needed, and so I think it's such a brilliant gift that you had the background and the experience that you did, because you can walk into this role with some kind of context and something to learn or pull from, as opposed to like, Phil, put together the memorial. Like, where do I start with
but
that?
Phil,
I don't
that's
even
a great
know.
segue
It is.
into my role.
Yeah.
Because I go out and promise the world. Really, my job was to create awareness, education, to build corporate partners and sponsorships. And now you have to deliver.
Yeah.
I don't. She does.
I do.
So I'm promising the world, and the world is delivered by Kayla. So when I say she has the most difficult job, I mean that sincerely, not flippantly. Because you're only as good as your promises, right?
Yep.
So we've brought some brilliant partners together. We've brought partners together that have never done anything with the Saginaw spirit.
Cool.
And so there's a level of expectation with that, and the full accountability of it is I promise, she delivers. That's why our partnership is so strong, and why we get along so well, because I think we both understand the repercussions of it long after the cup is over.
And both such an important part of this, because if you have a world-class event, but nobody really knows about it, nobody really gets the context, especially like you don't think of Saginaw as being a hockey town, and so not necessarily the entire community isn't tapped into what the Memorial Cup is and what exactly that means, and so you need somebody pounding the pavement, going to all of these events, saying this is what this is why it's important, this is why it's such a big deal. Otherwise, it happens, and then people are like, oh, this was a big deal, but I had no idea. I should have been there, and then you have that. But then at the same time, you can't promise the world and not give it to people. And so having somebody like Kayla behind the scenes saying, no, we can give you the world, is an amazing thing.
It is.
It is. And it's fun. I wouldn't even say it's difficult. It's a challenge.
Fun.
And I think that's the best part is the challenge, right? And I think when you look at it from a 40,000 foot vantage point, it's all about communication. So it's who's getting the proper communication. We have to let the public know what it's about.
Yep.
We want to involve our community members to be a part of something that more than likely will never come back into this community in our lifetime.
Yep.
And then we have to communicate to all of those that are respectively supporting this event to come in, like the city and the county. What permits do we need? What paperwork do we need to fill out? How do we make this look like the Memorial Cup, right? I mean, we've got 2-block radius to work within, but this is a community effort. It's not only Saginaw, it's the Great Lakes Bay region. So how do we welcome our guests and our residents to come down? How do we allow everybody, no matter their socioeconomic status, the ability to take part in an event that is a world-class event, right?
Check.
Yeah. And it's all about communication.
We should be proud of it, yes.
We are. I'm very proud of it.
I mean, stars, like this is one of those things, like we've created relationships, right? So it's to be careful what you ask for, you may get it. So we started this great relationship with stars, who are my heroes. Make no mistake about it. They are absolutely my heroes.
Yep.
And then you work so well together, you think about the Memorial Cup, and then they're like, hey, we want you to be on our board too.
Congratulations on that too, Jimmy.
Yay, Jimmy.
So, I mean, you watch the value. It's a shame on us moment too. I have to admit, I didn't recognize and appreciate the value of transportation in this region. Why? Because I have a car. I get around.
Yep.
We all get around. And when we started working with stars, my God, man, you're in the inner workings, and you're like, we need to do more of this.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been amazing.
And it stars too. Like it's a group of people that that are serious about public
Oh,
transportation.
they care.
Absolutely.
Jamie and Glenn,
Yep.
they care. It's not a job. They care.
Yeah, they're like they understand their role, and they understand the role of public transportation in the future of this community, and so they're constantly trying to make moves.
Sure are.
You know, Glenn, it was like $5 million secured to get 10 new buses.
Yeah.
Like that's going to benefit the community for years and years and years. So shout out to Stars, man. They're awesome.
Agreed.
It's funny. A couple years ago, I was actually working as a lobbyist and supporting them without recognizing that sooner or later. I kept thinking, I told Glenn, I said, God, I'm glad I was on the right side of that.
I was going to say.
Can you imagine being a lobbyist, being on the opposite side of that now?
So this is awkward.
Yeah, right. Awkward.
Yeah. Kayla, you mentioned something about so that everybody can enjoy the Memorial Cup. Jimmy, if people haven't been following you, just for some context, it seemed like every day, you're like send kids to the Memorial Cup. Help. So,
yeah.
Can you tell us what exactly that is?
Yeah. So, one of the things we have to make our viewers and our fans understand was that the CHL owns the Memorial Cup. We don't have a lot of flexibility and latitudes in terms of sponsorships and ticket prices. So I kept thinking to myself, the optics looked weird to me that we have all these free events that Kayla has put together. We have free transportation with Stars anywhere in the county. People could come down to the arena. But then it's 7 o'clock. I can never get that out of my head. It's 7 o'clock, and all of a sudden it's like all of a sudden we have this world of the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
So the have-nots, they could watch it at the park because they have to. But what if they could go in? So I started this small little thing, this little group thing, $600 would sponsor 15 kids or nonprofits. And it just turned into, and I set a target of $19.99 because I'm the biggest Prince fan in the world. And I did it just because I was honoring Prince during Black History Month. And that's the only reason I picked the number, to be frank with you. So long story short, we're over 2,000 right now.
Wow.
And that's going to be so much fun. Reaching out to Can Council, Underground Railroad, First Ward, saying, bring your staff and bring 10 kids or 20 kids or the Boy Scouts and stuff like that. I mean, 2,000 tickets. And let's face it, it's a win-win for everybody. Why? Because we need butts and seats too.
Yep.
So everybody wins in that formula. And I think that's the coolest thing. So that's going to be fun.
And I love the added layer of securing the tickets for kids or for the nonprofits, and then also reaching into First Ward, into Can Council, and saying you are connected already because of the work that you do to the people that benefit from this. Help us connect with them. It's more than just like waving 2,000 tickets up in the air and say, well, if you claim them, so be it. But like actually going into these organizations, say we need to get these tickets.
It's meaningful.
It's meaningful.
Is there anybody more philanthropic than Dick Garber? Dick Garber owns the Saginaw Spirit. I mean, is this not a 1 + 1 = 2?
Yep.
I mean, let's be frank. And so the Saginaw Spirit piece of this is giving back into a community that gives back to us. I mean, this is not a big pat on the back. This is why wouldn't we do that kind of moment? So some things you could take a lot of accolades with, and then some things are just common sense. And I think changing the demographics and who looks like a Saginaw Spirit fan is going to change the Saginaw Spirit in September when we drop a puck again. And that's cool.
Yeah. You want as much as what's within your power for the folks in the stands to be reflective of the community.
Real quick story.
Yes,
I took a group of 20 young black men into the arena one day with Pastor Kareem Bowen and his group, the Help Group.
Yeah.
It was funny. I'm watching them the entire time. They're having a ball, watching this fights in the sky. I mean, And so after they were leaving, one little kid comes up to me, goes, "Hey, can we come again?" And I said, "Sure." He goes, "Thank God, because I'm going to dress warmer the next time." I was like, yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
and we talk about specifically here in this region over the last couple of years about attraction retention.
Sure.
And when we talk about retention, specifically with kids, we can talk about jobs, and of course we need career opportunities, and we have to have something waiting for them when they decide this is what I want to do.
Right.
We have to have those hard opportunities. But kids don't speak that language. Like the fourth grader isn't thinking like, oh, I hope that there's a great paying electrical engineer job here in the Great Lakes Bay region with a moderate level of housing, like all these things. That's not what they're thinking. Like, did I have fun?
So true.
Does my community think I'm important? And this effort of bringing 2,000 kids into this arena, many of whom likely have never been in the arena or seen a hockey game, having fun, experiencing something new, going, wow, like my community gave me this. I'm having the time of my life. I never would have imagined. Like that positive experience means so much for us later down the road because it just digs those roots a little bit deeper into this is a place I want to be. This is a place that sees me as a person and wants to help me and wants to give me something, and I want to contribute back.
So we're going to teach them how to skate too.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
please.
so we have an urban hockey initiative going on right after the Memorial Cup. So and that's been funded by Dick Garber and the Saginaw Spirit. So we'll take groups of 10 or 20 at a time out to Saginaw Bay Ice Arena, teach them how to skate. Buy their own skates, buy a helmet.
Equipment.
Yeah,
Yes.
equipment. It's going to be fun. So lots of leave behinds here.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I love it.
Yep.
When we talk about the Memorial Cup, we talk about the games and such. Can we take a second to talk about the parade the day
That's the
before?
Kayla thing.
Sure.
See, the hard work part now.
So the games start on May 24th, but on May 23rd is the actual like Olympic torch Memorial Cup parade kind of thing. Kayla, can you tell me about this?
Sure.
It's just so over the top. I just love it.
It is,
Yeah.
but it is so deserving.
Yeah.
The community deserves it. The people who put the bid together deserve it. We deserve to have this. The CHL deserves it.
Yeah.
It is the arrival of the cup. It is the opening ceremonies, for a lack of a better term. So that cup will be arriving by convoy down 75. We're heading 75 north south.
South.
75 south because we were told to stay away from north
Yeah.
because of the Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
But it will head 75 south, make its way over to Commerce Tower. It will be greeted by the Saginaw Valley State University Marching Band.
Is it true that there's a tank involved?
There is
It's a military.
tank. Yes, there will be military vehicles.
Wild.
It's it's going to be grand. And the one thing that we said we wanted to do was provide a large welcoming experience. Our friends in Canada don't have homecoming parades, don't have really marching bands. They have bands that perform at football games and things,
Oh,
but they
really?
don't march. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is really exciting
how
for them
fun.
and the experience. But the most important thing we want to do with the arrival is pay tribute to not only the Canadian military, which the Memorial Cup stands for, but the U.S. military as
Right.
well. For those men and women that really pay the ultimate price to give us that freedom and to celebrate the sacrifices that they've created so we can be here. So, yes, there will be a small parade. We will head down Washington from Commerce Tower down to Johnson and behind Federal to come into the Jolt Event Park. In that parade will be the college marching band, a few high school marching bands, the public safety or the police, the fire department, the U.S. military. Our Boy Scouts will be carrying the giant U.S. flag. Canadian Boy Scouts will be carrying the giant Canadian flag.
Cool.
Followed by the cup itself, which will be presented on a rather large military vehicle to be announced at a later time. The tank is ideal, but we want to make sure our roads can withstand that.
That's true. The tank was cool, but no,
Yeah.
MDOT might have a few
Right.
ideas
I
about that.
destroyed that bridge. Yeah.
But an equivalent of it, right? But then Todd Michael Hall is going to be singing with the Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra.
That's gonna be epic.
Man,
We're
no
working on a
kidding.
flyover to conclude our services. We have dignitaries that are confirming their attendance. It's so grand, but rightfully so, as an award, an event like this deserves that recognition. So yeah. It's big.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you imagine me doing that?
No, I cannot.
No, you cannot.
But it's
Neither
not
can I.
just me. We have a
I
fantastic
know, but still,
committee.
somebody has to be a
Yes.
conductor having the orchestra play. You're the conductor.
Jimmy, I could see you saying all those words
Right.
and then saying, and somebody's got to make that happen.
And her name is Kayla.
Well, I think it's reflective of one. It's honoring exactly what the Memorial Cup is and just how
yeah.
big of a deal it is. But it's also really reflective of Saginaw. And like, here's an opportunity to show the world just the level of intense passion we have for things. Like when we go all in on something, like we're gonna love it.
Yeah.
And so here's this opening ceremony where it's not enough to just bring it in on a limo or like have it on the stage and have a bunch of people talk. Like, no, we're going to parade and music and Boy Scouts and jets and large military vehicles. And yeah, we're going to do it.
Well, that's something in this whole process of planning and executing. I always keep in the back of my mind, and Dick Garber said it. He said, let's not be something we're not. Let's be Saginaw and be the best Saginaw that we can.
I love that.
And that's what you're going to see throughout the entire 10 days of events and celebration, you know? And these boys, I mean, we haven't even talked about the contest yet. Like, this is the ultimate contest in any sport. And if you are a sports enthusiast and you don't know about the Memorial Cup, shame on you.
These guys are rocking it.
What they're doing is, I mean, it's 60 teams vying for their own individual championship within the 3 leagues, coming down to just 4 teams at the very end. And they're not getting a break. Like, they're going to be celebrating on the ice their championship moment, whether they're from the OHL, the QMJHL, or the WHL. And within 48 hours, be on Saginaw's ice to play a round robin competition against the champions.
Yep.
Like, this isn't.
Wow, I didn't know that it was
intense.
that quick. Like that soon after they get. Wow,
Oh yeah, like
that is intense.
tentative last game 7 for some of the leagues is May 20th. They're dropping right on our soil May 22nd. Yeah.
Wild. That's intense.
Well, you can see that playing out right now with March Madness, the Final Four.
Right.
Yeah, true.
How euphoric we are about March Madness. Well, they are about the Memorial Cup.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize, I mean, 7 million people in Canada will tune in on TSN to watch the semifinals and the finals, and they do it every year.
Wow. Wow. What an opportunity to really put Saginaw on display, put the community on display. It's also a great regional event as well. It's something that really stands to benefit, not just Saginaw County, but also Bay Midland, maybe reaching over into Isabella a little bit too. And so it's really great that we as a region can come together and celebrate this amazing thing coming to Saginaw.
There are
It's very
2
cool.
things that happen when big events happen. 2 schools of thought. 1, thank God it's gone.
Yeah.
Or 2, wow, I missed that. I'm convinced people will miss it.
I agree.
When it's gone, people will miss this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people, you better not miss the Memorial Cup.
Absolutely.
And you should go to the Saginaw Spirit website, get all the tickets. You see all the info with the schedule there and really participate in what is likely going to be a once in a lifetime event here.
It will be.
Yeah, in the city of Saginaw. So you don't want to be the person that said, man, I should have gone to that. Like,
I agree.
Grab a game, grab all the games, like do what you can, go to the Jolt event park and watch them on the screens and just really participate in this event, not just for the hockey part, not just for the Memorial Cup, but just to experience the community in what is going to be a once in a lifetime event.
And I challenge anybody in the region, take an hour of your time to come down on one day
Yeah.
and just see what it's all about. Take it in. Be a part of the Fan Fest, where we will have synthetic ice skating and a rock wall and inflatables and face painting, and see the Hockey Hall of Fame. You know, many people won't make it to Toronto. Right. See it on our turf,
It's
right?
here.
Yeah.
Come and view the Temple Theater and watch Spirit Rising docuseries. Like, who else has a junior hockey team that has an entire series of
Documentary.
episodes,
Yeah.
right?
And they're
Just
awesome
take it in.
too. Those episodes are killer.
They're
They're
amazing.
very, very cool.
Yeah.
So come be a part of this very cool event. The Saginaw Spirit website, do it to it. Thank you so much to you
Thank you,
guys
Phil.
Thank you for having us,
all
Phil.
all the work that you're doing behind the scenes to really pull off this event for us. You know, I get to show up either at the Joel Event Park or buy a ticket, and I get to experience the amazingness of the Memorial Cup. But I didn't have to do anything to bring it here. And whenever we talk about events, we really got to give a shout out to everybody that's responsible for creating that. So that's you two and Saginaw Spirit and Go Great Lakes Bay and Dick Garber, Stars, Dow, all the
organizing committee, everybody.
Everybody.
So
all the
many people.
committees.
That's another whole hour.
Yeah, it's another whole hour. So
Next episode.
Yeah, we're next for the next 60 minutes. We will list all of your names. So I want to thank publicly all of the folks responsible for bringing such an amazing event, and specifically because you're sitting here in front of me. You two, you're amazing. Jimmy and Kayla, thanks so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing our story,
Appreciate
Phil.
it.
Cut. You guys are awesome.